what makes a bird fly.
I'm too busy thinking about my baby.
Oh yeah, and I ain't got time for nothing else. And I ain't got time for nothing else.
New Loctite Super Glue 3 sticks more things than any other super glue and faster.
You're fixing them faster than I'm selling them, son.
New Loctite, Dad.
Stanley helps you do things right.
Easter Saturday film comedy at 15 minutes past midnight on Central, starring Richard Pryor in Stir Crazy.
I hereby sentence you to serve 125 years.
Okay, no more hitting. Did you hear what I
You're
just did?
sentenced to spend Easter Saturday at midnight on Central with Stir Crazy.
Despite a lifestyle that looks like one long holiday, the Baywatch team decide to take a short vacation at 5:15.
Ronnie Rosenthal is playing for keeps. Another for Liverpool's on-loan Israeli international, but Liverpool forfeit a 2-goal lead against Forest. So Aston Villa gain ground. Gordon Cowan's against Chelsea. They played a game more, but are only 1 point adrift. Mick Harford's goals for Derby means that Millwall's 2-year term in the First Division is over. Millwall are relegated. What a week for Manchester United, FA Cup finalists and First Division security. Neil Webb with the winner at Queen's Park Rangers. In the Scottish Cup, the holders Celtic are through to the final again. Andy Walker with 2, but it was no easy ride against First Division Clyde Bank. But it was a stroll for Aberdeen against Dundee United. Brian Irvine keeps them on course for a Scottish Cup double. 4-0 the score. It's Aberdeen against Celtic in the final. Very good afternoon to you. We have goal action coming up. That's from Villa Park. Aston Villa winning by 1-0 against Chelsea. And we have a remarkable cricket story as well for you momentarily. Just let me tell you the score in the fifth test. England, in their first innings, are 249 for 8 at the moment. Scores and scorers in the key games in England and in Scotland this afternoon. Liverpool 2, Nottingham Forest 2. Ronnie Rosenthal put Liverpool ahead. Steve McMahon got another after 15 minutes, 2 minutes after Rosenthal's. But Nottingham Forest, with 2 goals in the second half, got a point. Steve Hodge and Nigel Jemson. And that means Forest have taken 2 points now from their last 24. But a much encouraging result for them at Anfield this afternoon. Villa 1, Chelsea 0, the goal coming up. We move on to Derby 2, Millwall 0, Millwall down 2 for Mick Harford. Southampton 3, Charlton 2. Southampton were 3-0 up. Neil Ruddock got a couple early on, and Jimmy Case also scored. 3-0 it was at half-time, and then Andy Jones and Tommy Caton hit back for Charlton, but that looks as if they will be joining Millwall in the second division next season. As will Luton, probably. Ian Dowie gave them a 2-0 lead against Everton, who came back with Tony Cotty's 12th in 13 games and also Graham Sharp after 78. Manchester City 2, Sheffield Wednesday 1. Niall Quinn got the first after 22 minutes. David Hurst equalised for Sheffield Wednesday. The City winner from substitute Adrian Heath, his first since joining them from Aston Villa. Queen's Park Rangers 1, Manchester United 2. Justin Channing after 34 minutes. And Mark Robbins, who put United into the FA Cup final at Wembley, he got the equaliser after coming on as substitute. 69 minutes gone. Neil Webb got the winner, and that means United have won their last 3 in the league, and Queen's Park Rangers have lost their last 4. Crystal Palace 1, Arsenal 1. Arsenal going in front through Martin Hayes, 16 minutes. Andy Gray equalising for Palace after 83. But bad news for Steve Coppell's team. Andy Thorne was carried off with a suspected broken leg. If that's confirmed, then clearly he'll miss the FA Cup final. Spurs 3, Coventry 2. Coventry, in fact, were 2 goals up through David Smith and David Speedy. Gary Lineker equalised after 38, and then Paul Stewart, who scored in the last 4 games, he got the equaliser just after half-time, and Gary Lineker with the winner, 69 minutes, his 24th of the season. Wimbledon 1, Norwich 1. That's a result. Mark Bowen, 3 in 3 games for him, put Norwich in front after 43 minutes. John Fashanu equalising 56. The key games now, the top of Division 2. Sheffield United have beaten Oxford. That means they are now level at the top with Leeds. Booker and Ford an own goal. There's Bob Booker, who put them in front after 66. John Durnin was the Oxford scorer. And Newcastle United are moving up. They've won their last 5 now. Kevin Scott it was who got the winning goal at Wolves after 29 minutes. Swindon 2, Watford 0. Duncan Shearer 63, his 25th of the season, and then Steve White after 70. That takes their tally to 74. Swindon, the top scorers in the top 2 divisions. Bradford 0, Blackburn 1. Looks like being a priceless away victory for Blackburn Rovers. They've got an own goal to thank. Gavin Oliver, 39 minutes. 1 win in 7 for Bradford, next to bottom this morning. And Sunderland 0, Hull 1. A setback for the Rokerites. Peter Swan after 21 minutes for Hull. Sunderland were 5th this morning. Scottish Cup semi-finals, the Tennent's Scottish Cup. Clydebank 0, Celtic 2. Both goals to Andy Walker. Dundee United 0, Aberdeen 4 in the other semi-final at Tynecastle. Irvine 2, Van der Horn own goal, and Hans Hielhaus making it a very emphatic 4-0 for Aberdeen. Right, some cricket now, and another amazing bust-up involving the West Indies captain Viv Richards. The West Indies skipper stormed into the press box and confronted the Daily Express reporter James Lawton just before the scheduled start of play on the second morning of the final test in Antigua. Richards, who had a verbal bust-up with Lawton yesterday, pointed an accusing finger and said, "You wrote bad things about me. I'm in a very angry mood this morning. Anyone who gets in my way had better be careful." The row lasted 10 minutes. Richards, in fact, was still in the press box when the West Indies took the field, but play was interrupted after just 9 minutes by rain, and Richards was back in the action by the time England lost their first wicket of the day. Jack Russell for 7 and Phil de Freitas for 21. England are now 249 for 8. No change from what I told you just at the start of the programme. It's raining again. Now, in the more peaceful surroundings of the Crucible in Sheffield, England's Dean Reynolds staged an action replay to reach the last 16 of snooker's Embassy World Championship, repeating last year's 10-7 first-round win over South African Peter Francisco, and now meets the second seed, John Parrott. Well, back to football. As I told you, Liverpool squandered a 2-goal lead to only draw at home with Nottingham Forest this afternoon. Meanwhile, Aston Villa, at home to Chelsea, moved to within a point of the leaders by winning by 1-0. Commentator Martin Tyler.
Flat. There's a run on for Cascarino here. He's onside, and Erland Johnsen made up some ground but didn't have the strength really. Tony Cascarino beaten away by Besant, followed in by Gordon Cowans, and Aston Villa have scored.
Gordon Cowans' 3rd goal of the season, giving Villa maximum points this afternoon. Full classified check now on all the results, north and south of the border, with Bob Colston.
Thanks, Elton, and we begin with Barclays League Division 1. Aston Villa 1, Chelsea 0. Crystal Palace 1, Arsenal 1. Derby County 2, Millwall 0. Not on the pools, Liverpool 2, Nottingham Forest 2. Luton 2, Everton 2. Manchester City 2, Sheffield Wednesday 1. Queen's Park Rangers 1, Manchester United 2. Southampton 3, Charlton 2. Tottenham 3, Coventry 2. And Wimbledon 1, Norwich 1. Division 2, Barnsley 1, West Ham 1. Bradford City 0, Blackburn 1. Brighton 0, West Bromwich Albion 3. Ipswich 3, Port Vale 2. Leicester 1, Portsmouth 1. Plymouth 1, Bournemouth 0. Sheffield United 2, Oxford United 1. Stoke 0, Middlesbrough 0. Sunderland 0, Hull 1. Swindon 2, Watford 0. And Wolves 0, Newcastle 1. Division 3. Bolton 1, Tranmere 1. Bristol Rovers 2, Rotherham 0. Chester 0, Northampton 1. Fulham 1, Birmingham 2. Huddersfield 2, Blackpool 2. Leyton Orient 2, Bury 3. Mansfield 1, Wigan 0. Notts County 2, Crewe 0. Preston 2, Bristol City 2. Reading 0, Cardiff 1. Swansea against Shrewsbury is a late result. And Walsall 2, Brentford 1. Division 4, Aldershot 0, Maidstone 2. Burnley against Cambridge United is a late result. Doncaster 1, Chesterfield 0. Gillingham 0, Hereford 1. Hartlepool 0, Colchester 2. Lincoln 0, Scarborough 0. Peterborough 3, Halifax 0. Scunthorpe 3, Wrexham 1. Southend 3, Rochdale 2. The games between Stockport and Grimsby and Torquay and Exeter are both late results. And York 0, Carlisle 1. GM Vauxhall Conference, these games not on the pools. Cheltenham 2, Kidderminster 1. Chorley against Merthyr Tydfil is a late result. Darlington 0, Wickham 1. Enfield 1, Yeovil 1. Farnborough 0, Northwich 1. Fisher against Sutton United is also a late result. Kettering 0, Macclesfield 0. Runcorn 3, Boston 1. And Welling 1, Telford 1. HFS Loans League Premier Division, Buxton 0, Gateshead 4. Carnarvon 0, Matlock 0. Fleetwood 4, Gainsborough 1. Frickley 1, Southport 2. Goole 0, Morecambe 5. And Marine 3, Bangor City 3. 10th Scottish Cup, semi-finals, not on the pools, these matches. Clydebank 0, Celtic 2. And Dundee United 0, Aberdeen 4. P&Q Scottish League Premier Division, again not on the pools. Dundee 1, St Mirren 2, Dunfermline 0, Hearts 1, and Rangers 2, Motherwell 1. Scottish Division 1, Airdrie 1, Meadowbank 1, Alloa 0, Wraith 4, Ayr 0, Albion Rovers 2, Clyde 0, Falkirk 0, Forfar 2, Partick Thistle 0, and Hamilton Morton not on the pools is a late result. Scottish Division 2, Berwick 1, East Stirling 0. 2 matches not on the pools. Dumbarton 1, Cowdenbeath 3, and East Fife 1, Brecon 3. Montrose 0, Queen's Park 1. 2 not on the pools, Queen of the South 0, Stenhousemuir 4, and Stirling 3, Arbroath 2, and the final match, Stranraer against Kilmarnock, is a late result.
Thanks, Bob. Here are the score draws. 2, 4, 9, 10, 14, 21, 25, 29, 50, and 51. And 4 no-score draws, 17, 38, 46, and 54. Well, I think most people in football would have fancied Liverpool to win this afternoon at home against Nottingham Forest, who'd taken only 1 point out of the previous 21 available. Well, Liverpool built up a big lead, but Forest came back to equalise. Kev Keating's reports from Anfield.
A sensational second-half comeback from Nottingham Forest, who were outplayed and 2 down at half-time to a rampant Liverpool, ahead through Ronnie Rosenthal with his 4th goal in 2 games, and Steve McMahon inside the first quarter of an hour. There could have been more, but we weren't prepared for this second-half Forest resurgence. Hodge pulled one back on 62 minutes, and after Liverpool's defence went walkabout, Nigel Jemson equalised 7 minutes later. But for the crossbar and 2 incredible Stuart Pearce goal line clearances, Liverpool would have won it, but Kenny Dalglish will be a far from happy man tonight as Forest came back to steal only their 2nd point in 8 games. Final score, Liverpool 2, Nottingham Forest 2.
Well, there we go. Liverpool with a game in hand, but their lead only 1 point now. Should be quite a match. Next Wednesday, Liverpool away to Arsenal. And at the bottom of the First Division, Sheffield Wednesday, in fact, dropped 3 places after losing at Main Road. But it really does look now as if it's the bottom 3 who'll go down. Millwall definitely are. Well, the other Second Division news today, Trevor Morley kept West Ham's hopes of a playoff spot alive when he cancelled out Jerry Taggart's early strike for a point at Barnsley. At the bottom, Tommy Tynan scored from the penalty spot to ease the pressure on Plymouth, who sneaked the points against Bournemouth. But more gloom for Alan Ball's bottom club Stoke. They surrendered 2 precious points against fellow strugglers Middlesbrough in a goalless draw at the Victoria Ground. Let's have a look at the top and the bottom of the Second Division then. This afternoon, Stoke still rooted at the bottom with Bradford and Middlesbrough just above them. Leeds and Sheffield United on the same number of points with Newcastle 3 points behind. Right, in Scotland, it's all over by the celebrating at Ibrox after Rangers' 2-1 win against Motherwell. Only Cup finalists Aberdeen and Hearts, who beat Dunfermline today, can stop Rangers retaining their title, and only that on goal difference. Right, on ITV tonight, 11:15, the WBA Middleweight Championship of the World, Mike McCallum against Michael Watson. Join Jim Rosenthal then.
Tonight, just after 11 o'clock on ITV, I'll be fighting Mike McCallum for the World Middleweight Championship. Keep tuned in if you want to watch a devastating performance.